Bret. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
You listen to that. You ever get tired of dealing with Fox management? Just think, I'm going to YouTube.
No. No, I don't.
I believe you. This is a thought that has never crossed your mind.
I don't.
No. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And I'll just jump right in. I know you think a lot. We've talked a bit about social media, and it's the way in which it distorts our world, our business. Your colleague Jesse Waters, and I just want to preface, opinion person, not your responsibility, not your department, but said something I thought was accurate the other day, which is the way it works is somebody said something on social media, Musk retweets it, Rogan podcasts it, Fox broadcasts it. Substitute, by the way, anybody else in for Fox there. How do any of us just avoid being like the last tail being wagged by the dog, you know, the last cog in that kind of machine that begins with some random tweet?
Yeah, I don't want to put words in Jesse's mouth. I think he was saying that information travels fast, and in this environment, social media environment, it's automatic and can be amplified fast. My job in my horse blinders of 6 to 7 p.m. and special report is to be like an ice hockey goalie trying to prevent the bad pucks from getting through. And there's a lot of bad pucks that come at you on social media and elsewhere. We have different jobs, opinion and news. We work under the same umbrella, but it is, it's a different world now than it was, the way information travels around.
I mean, something about the way he described it, which is also, I think, you also describe it accurately. It takes a lot of the control away from us. Like you used to be the quarterback and now you're the goalie or something. Yeah. I mean, do you feel like there's anything, is there anything that, and is sitting in the chair you sit in, I mean, you're probably, I think, the most influential news anchor in America every night at this point. Is there anything you
want to type that up for me? Or?
Yeah, just put it in your blurb of your next book.
Right.
This event's on trust. Jim showed us some really dire stats. Do you think there are things that someone like you, someone in one of those chairs, can actually do to move the needle substantively? Or are we all sort of just reacting and playing defense?
What I think more people need to do, and what I try to do and have tried to do, is take the emotion out of it. To take the emotion out of covering the news. And I think over time, over the years, that has been a problem. And that some people got emotional about it and lost half the audience.
I feel like I hear Roger Ailes spinning in his grave when you say that.
Yeah.
Like, isn't that what drives ratings, the emotion?
Well, for my job, the emotion of covering something, you present both sides and you try to hear the other side. I'm not the opinion guy, but I think that if you build it, they will come, works. I took over for Bret 16 years ago in the anchor chair. I'm trying to do big news stories. This week I had Emmanuel Macron on Monday. I have UK Prime Minister Sturmer today. I have, and I'll announce here, I have a live interview with Zelensky tomorrow after his meeting with President Trump. So this is big stuff, the big news events that I think, that should drive a lot of news coverage and not the controversy of the day.
By the way, we are all jealous of those bookings. I think apparently being watched by the president is a very, and having giant ratings doesn't hurt. What do you make, though, of speaking of the controversy of the day, the White House decision to block the White House course, to block the AP's access specifically, I guess, because they won't say Gulf of America, and also to make a play to take control of the pool? You've been in the mix of these kind of controversies for a long time. What do you make of it?
Yeah, we support the White House Correspondents Association. We always have. They do good things, not just the organizing of the pool. They do scholarships, all kinds of things. This is a reordering. We'll have to see how it shakes out. For the TV side, it's going to be the same kind of thing. The 5 TV networks are going to still do the same job. I worry about setting precedent that changes things down the road, and maybe they don't realize the implications of it. I think that they're talking about more transparency. You can't argue that this White House isn't answering questions and opening up. He's answered, I think he's had 1,100 questions in the first month.
I saw you reported that, but there's a power struggle,
yeah,
right, over who controls access to the president.
100%.
Do you think the media, ought to have control ultimately over that, over who gets sent to follow him around?
Yeah, listen, we stood by the AP. We signed that letter of the networks standing by, not blocking somebody for editorial decisions. I've stood up for CNN when they weren't in a pool.
Yeah.
People have stood up for Fox.
And I guess the concern is partly, just to make it explicit, like President AOC tosses you out of the pool, right?
It would happen different times, yeah. I mean, it would set precedent. So, yeah, I think it's something that you have to be concerned about.
And I've always admired Fox's stance. There have been a bunch of these controversies, and Fox has always, I think, to some degree, probably in a ways that its audience might not love, fought for these kind of micro prerogatives in the White House that do have consequences.
But I will say, telling the story about that is not something people care about in Middle America.
Well, this is something I'm interested in, because I watched the show. You don't talk. This is not a thing you talk about on air.
It's very processed.
Is it 'cause it's boring?
It's very Washington.
It is very Washington. It's very boring. But are you worried that also your audience would be upset
No,
if you were
I'm not
taking
worried
the
about
side
that.
of the lamestream
If
media?
it was a bigger story, if somebody cared about how the White House press pool is going to operate, for us, it's very processy. It's big here in Washington, and I did it on social media, and Jackie Heinrich's on the board, and but it's very processy for anybody
All right.
watching
So,
the
but
news.
more broadly, I think I would say that there's a sense that I think this is again true across media, but certainly true of Fox, that at times the network is scared of its audience. That the audience is so passionate about President Trump, loves Trump, and if you're going to say something negative about President Trump, you better really pre-chew it very carefully. Maybe you're going to avoid saying it at all. Do you feel that pressure?
No. We've done stories that are positive, negative. I've been on the back end of tweets of President Trump. Had a pretty contentious interview the last time, not the Super Bowl one, but the one before that. And yeah, you cover it both ways. Listen, I want to come away tough but fair. That's it. And sometimes you look at my X account and Sally says you're so in the tank for Trump, and Bob says you're such an anti-Trumper, and I feel like saying Bob meet Sally, Sally meet Bob, and I'm just going to cover the news. So I don't think we're afraid of the audience. We respect the audience. More Democrats and independents watch Fox than any other network. We've had our largest ratings boom in the past month. I mean, it's crazy numbers. The 5 gets over 5 million viewers. I'm getting 4 million at 6 o'clock in the evening. And so you're not getting those numbers all because you're doing things cookie cutter. Each one of us covers things differently. I just happen to be the news version.
The Mark Thompson, I'm not sure if you were here for this. I know you have an extremely busy day and some other giant interview, but he was here earlier, and it was said basically, because I think looking at Fox, maybe not at your show, but certainly looking at the prime time, looking at MSNBC, you say, look, the only way to get ratings is opinion. And Max sort of asked Mark, are you basically willing to sacrifice TV ratings in order to rebuild a brand that is really away from opinion? And Mark, I think, at least is gamely making the case that no, we're going to do just the facts, ma'am, we're going to do news, and people will watch it. I haven't seen much evidence for that. Curious what advice you would have for him.
I really don't want to give him that much advice. I mean, I'm kind of happy with the equation right now. Listen, the format we have on my show seems to work. It's like a network newscast in the first 30 minutes, a lot of interviews that drive news, and then a panel that analyzes it. And I'm trying to get a balanced panel of left, right, and Trump, because you can
Those are the 3 sides now?
Yeah, left, center, Trump.
Interesting.
Those
are the 3 genders?
Yeah.
All right. You I think personally, and I think you can't really acknowledge this in a way, but I think you straddle a very complicated line. You are like a central casting newsman at a network that is truly defined by these huge opinion shows, by these huge opinion personalities who intermittently just burst into flames and ignite and go elsewhere. And Tucker and Megyn are now the 2 biggest podcasters in the world. And you take a fair amount of heat for this. Chuck Todd, I think ex-friend of yours, said, I thought he really actually cared about being a journalist first and wanting to walk that line, and now he just wants to have tea time with the president.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know what promoted Chuck to do that. I have an interview to do with the UK Prime Minister today, so I don't know what he's doing, but I think my focus is, what I said, covering the news. If I have off-the-record conversations and moments with President Trump, I think that any journalist would want to get in his mind of what's next. The things are going a million miles an hour, and just to have a perspective off the record. So I don't think that that's true. As I said, we've covered a lot of things that we were first on. I mean, the cognitive questions about President Biden. We were told that we were running cheap fake videos, and it was all attack. And then suddenly now there's an effort to rewrite history.
Do you want to apologize for that?
Yeah, no, there was no.
I'm joking.
But COVID, you go to the Wuhan lab, you go to all these things that we were a conspiracy theory, and we were attacked in the media who covered media. And a year
I hate
later,
those people.
And a year later, it turns out to be we were leading the way. So over time, the audience has come to trust. When we have big events, we're the most watched. Breaking news, we're the most watched. And I think that trust is important.
A final question, as somebody who does talk to the president, and I assume has some insight into his view of media. I think there's a debate inside the media about the sort of range of pressure that this White House is putting on media, whether it's the sort of squabbles over the White House, whether it's the FCC investigations of mostly kind of mainstream networks. Are these brushback pitches? Is this kind of scattershot revenge, or is this like a real attempt to rearrange the First Amendment in the United States? What do you think?
Listen, I think that the First Amendment has been pressure tested over time. There's been a lot of challenges. And
what do you think Trump's trying to do?
I don't know yet. And it is, we have to watch that. We really do. And we have to stand together on that. And we've seen it over time. Again, it's the same thing. You set precedent. And if you do something here, it lasts for a long time, no matter Democratic, Republican administration. So I don't know the motivation. And we'll see how far it goes.
Well, if you see him, do ask him and tell us.
I will.
Thank you for taking the time.
Okay, you bet.
Good luck with the Starmer interview.
Thanks.
Congrats.
Thanks.